The world of Elden Ring is host to a myriad of strange and interesting creatures, all with their own lore and backstory. And at first glance, one of the most mundane versions of this would be the jellyfish, but that's only for players that don't discover the secret behind Aurelia. You see, Aurelia is a spirit summon we can get early on in the game at the Stormhill Shack ruins, where a woman is lying on the ground who offers you this giant jellyfish who can help you in battle. Besides the fact that the jellyfish can come in very clutch in a lot of fights with her ranged attack, the summon is actually hiding a secret sister named Arlette, who you can find near the mountaintops of the giants at the end of the game by the Stargazer ruins. If you summon Ariel next to this lost jellyfish, they will talk to one another and embrace the fact that they have been reunited after all this time and disappear into the stars. The interaction not only unlocks a handy talisman, but also is one of the most hidden and heartwarming moments in the entire game, watching two sister jellyfish reunite with one another after being years apart. Where this theory starts to take a crazy turn though, is that some players have actually found two tombstones in the mountaintop cemetery sitting right next to each other with the same names of Ariel and Arlette, belonging to two children who died early in their lives. This strongly implies that those two original spirit jellyfish are not jellyfish at all, but in fact, children who have passed away and been reincarnated as jellyfish spirits. This opens a new can of worms though, because it begs the question, are all jellyfish in Elden Ring the reincarnated souls of children? And if they are, what is going on here? Is some sort of cosmic horror happening to these children upon death? Or is there a happier tale on the innocent souls of young being spared from the life and death and instead living a peaceful existence? If you haven't caught on already, FromSoft Games, and specifically Elden Ring, is full of a lot of hidden secrets. But what secret would be bigger than an entire ending that only one person has found? You see, there are 6 endings in Elden Ring, all involving different characters and events, but similar in their own way as well. However, right around the release of Elden Ring, YouTuber Garden of Eyes posted a supposed secret 7th ending to the game that players could only unlock by 100% completing absolutely everything the game had to offer. The full video was claimed to include sections of the player character meeting some of the outer gods and the greater will specifically, and merging with them, becoming an all-powerful new god. Sadly though, this video and rumor turned out to be nothing but a prank from a Dark Souls modder. But that doesn't mean they weren't onto something, because even to this day, many fans still believe there actually is a secret hidden ending to Elden Ring, and no one has figured out how to activate it yet. During your adventures gallivanting around Elden Ring, you probably at one point stumbled upon Lindell Capital soldiers mourning the loss of their fallen comrades. It's a sad sight to see and really puts into context the tragic atrocities all this fighting has caused. In a horrifying twist though, something not uncommon for Elden Ring, there's more than meets the eye here. Because if you actually manage to sneak near one of those mourning soldiers without alerting them, you can hear the sounds of crunching bones and snapping limbs, implying that these soldiers are not actually mourning their lost friends, but rather eating from their corpses as a source of food. As to why this Lovecraftian nightmarish horror is occurring, it's hard to say. It could be that the soldiers are starving or simply being controlled by a demonic entity, but either way, it's a terrifying realization that many players probably missed. While we do know that the Elden Beast was originally sent down to the Lands Between from a great star via the Greater Will, we still don't know exactly what the Elden Beast really is. A creature that has constellations and stars etched into its very frame, and a sword imbued with the bodies of the dead. By taking a closer look at this damn beast though, some in the community have come to the interesting conclusion that the Elden Beast may actually be an amoeba, those unicellular organisms we can see under microscopes and study that change shape and move. His body does in fact seem very reminiscent of an amoeba, and even more interestingly, the Elden Beast could also be parasitic, like many other amoebas, as it has come to the lands to conquer and take over on behalf of the Greater Will. It would explain why the Elden Beast looks the way it does, and would give an interesting lore connection as to what's really going on here. While it's still not clear what the Greater Will's real intentions were with coming to the Lands Between originally, our best guess is that it had something to do with the great and ancient tree known as the Primordial Crucible. The Crucible was the birthplace of all life on the planet and holds immense and unknown powers that a god like the Greater Will would certainly be keen on harnessing. So when the Elden Beast was first sent to the Lands Between, one of the original things that presumably happened was the power of this long-lost great tree began to be harnessed. And in the process, the Erd tree we know and see in the game was born, with its giant yellow rays of light signifying the Golden Order. It would then follow that the Erd tree itself is not some sort of new entity or being, but rather a parasite that has taken over the host body of an ancient being and commandeered its power for its own doing. This leads to a lot of interesting lore implications as to what the Erd tree actually really even is, and what significance it holds. As we know, other great trees like Miquella's Halig tree have grown in competition to this new alien force, trying to bring back the ways of the primordial crucible. Could it even be possible that the Halig tree is the true reincarnation of the primordial crucible itself, fighting its way back into life in opposition to the parasitic Erd tree? The answers still remain unclear, but either way, these great trees are very likely the thing that makes this planet so special in the first place, and why so many outer gods and gods alike have shown a huge interest in something that lies here. The planet itself is hiding a massive secret brought to fruition from these giant trees, and only in time will the Greater Will or some other powerful force finally unhatch their secrets. One of the coolest weapons in the entirety of Elden Ring has to be the Sacred Relic Sword. But the most interesting part about the entire sword might not even be its awesome look or amazing special attack, but rather the item description. Sword wrought from the remains of a god who should have lived a life eternal. Thoughts on what the weapon portends are many and varied. Some consider it the mark of a great sin, or sign of great devastation. Some think of it as the end of an age, while others the beginning. When we take into consideration that the same sword also looks almost identical to the coiled sword from the Gundyr boss in Dark Souls 3, something pointed out by YouTuber NDMyOnTV, it starts to paint the picture that Elden Ring may actually be the start of something much bigger than itself. As marked in the description, the sword marks the end or beginning of an age, and as the sword is dawned from the final boss of Elden Ring, it's a fitting description indeed. But the horrifying realization is that this new age could actually be different FromSoftware games. You see, besides the fact that we do see some reoccurring characters like Patches in all of the FromSoft games, and the fact that at one point in an interview George R.R. Martin, who helped write Elden Ring, mentioned that the game was a sequel to Dark Souls, it seems that multiple endings from Elden Ring could actually be the start to other games from the FromSoft catalog. For example, the Frenzied Flame ending of Elden Ring could be the catalyst that thrust the world into chaos in Dark Souls, and would explain how the Light of the Bonfires was born. For Bloodbourne, the Lovecraftian nightmare would have been born from the Age of Stars ending, or Ranni's ending, where she defeats the Golden Order and births the world anew. And to top this out, Demon Souls could be the spawn from the Destined Death ending. All of these theories would make so much sense and would tie everything together, as to reasons we see certain characters like Patches in all of the games, because he stems from the original story, the story of Elden Ring, and only through different endings that the player chooses does the world cascade itself into the stories we know and love, like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Bloodbourne. In fact, maybe that hidden 7th ending to the game is actually real, and is the prequel to the Armored Core franchise. I swear I'm not high. It's a super interesting idea to think about nonetheless, and makes the dark and twisted lore of all of these series that much more interesting.